So
Are you going to do like a little intro?
not really. I mean, the intro will be like with the actual packaging of this at some point, but
Oh yeah, okay, all right.
and there's no way to put logos or anything like that in there. So,
That's cool.
But
yeah, check this out. Check it out. So it's coiled so tightly, right, that as it's feeding into the machine, I'm just unwrapping it.
Yeah.
You know, like, and what it does is it gets, there's so much torsion happening with the filament that it stops wanting to, it doesn't want to extrude.
Yeah.
The extruder just doesn't grip it. Then it starts getting all heat creepy.
Yeah. Well, that's mostly just because that extruder motor is like the tiniest motor possible. Yeah.
So it loses its grip, but and then which kind of defeats the whole purpose of that nice little filament parking spotter, right? Because eventually, it becomes basically you have to pull it out and then feed it externally, and even then, unless you have some sort of clever mounting system, you run into that same torsion problem because it'll pull, like if you have it on one of those spool holders, it'll pull it towards the printer or vice versa.
Yeah.
Right. So it has a number of different little things that I'm sure the designers didn't think of when they were building it.
So those that just joined us, I think Drew32 is the other one that's watching right now. This is what we're talking about. We're talking about this little M3D 3D printer. We both have them. They're about $350 US, and they're neat little machines.
Yeah, I think they're worth every penny. You can get, and I'm not sure if it's still going on, but you can get a refurbished one for $50 off, which is what I did. It's look up. There's promo codes. I think the code was refurb actually.
Right. Yes.
And it knocked $50 off. So I mean, it saved a few dollars,
and probably all he did is swap out the extruder or something.
Yeah, because there was people were calling in and I guess sending them back, and they just probably swapped something and it's good as new. I didn't get a box. Did you get a box, John?
Not I just got a cardboard box.
Yeah, I just got a cardboard box too. I saw in some advertisements that they had these nice fancy sort of boxes. I'd say ditch the box and just get the printer because it's a sweet machine.
Yeah, I was a little concerned when I did get my box though, because the printer comes bubble wrapped, and the filament itself, which this is the filament that it uses, was like just jammed down there. I was just worried about a little bit of damage, but it was fine. So
man,
everything is pinned in place. So
yeah, it came packaged pretty well for me. I don't know. I'd like to see what more and more people are saying as more and more of the printers go out, to see what sort of condition they get it in and how it starts holding up.
It's funny. It's funny because I saw it when they launched the Kickstarter, and that was right around the time when I was checking out of Kickstarted 3D printers, just because so many people hadn't shipped anywhere close to being on time, and so I kind of forgot about it. And then one of the guys in 3D604, he got one, and he had it at Maker Faire, and he it just was so cool. I needed to get one. I needed to get a printer that would fit in my carry-on bag. Is basically what I wanted, and this totally does. And Drew, these particular most FDM printers only print with plastic. One of the things I did just get though, which is really kind of cool, this is from Color Fab, and this is copper fill, and this is basically 80% PLA plastic with 20% copper added to it, and you end up with really cool stuff that. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but basically this is a 5-cent piece. Oh, and it's backwards, which is interesting. But it actually looks like a penny, and it feels like a penny. And you just polish it a little bit. And where did I put? Oh, 1 second. So this is something I printed, and I printed it fairly heavy, so it's got some heft to it. It's not conductive. It's there's still enough particles of plastic between everything that it's not conductive. Although they do make conductive filament that has a lot more particles. We've got Shashi joining us now from Portland. He and I have been friends for a number of years now, and he's kind of like the Portland equivalent of me in Vancouver in the 3D space. He runs a very popular 3D printing meetup down there, and he also runs the 3D printing booth at Maker Faire Portland, which is coming up in a couple of weeks, which I'm stoked to be at again.
Hey guys.
And there he is.
Welcome.
Hey. And you need some light.
Yes, I do. This didn't work quite the way I had planned.
No worries. There you go. That's better.
Fantastic. I can just hold it in my lap, I guess.
So with the copper filament there, how does it feel weight wise? Right. So you're describing how it feels like a penny and looks like a penny. What about that heft? Does it have sort of that?
Well, this is a rather big piece, and I have the somewhere in here. This is the PLA equivalent of it. And this weighs almost nothing. Like this feels like popcorn. Yeah. And this has only got 10% infill, and this has 90% infill. That was the mistake I made with my original stainless steel filament. Is I didn't print with enough infill, and so I printed the same cactus, although smaller. This is with 10% infill, and I don't know if you can see the shine on it though, but it actually is shiny like a piece of steel. And you can polish it and do all kinds of stuff, but it doesn't have the weight. So the illusion is kind of broken as soon as you pick it up.
I see.
But the nice thing is if you were making stuff to be on display or whatever like that, you could simulate metal very easily. And if you actually have to pick it up, you can, print it with the 90% infill, and this feels like a chunk of metal. Like it's
when it's got the right amount of infill, it'll be
yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's good to know.
This is about 110 grams versus this is probably like 7 or 8 grams of plastic. So there's just more volume there to begin with, but the fact that there's metal in it and it feels like metal too, which is really kind of cool.
Okay.
This stuff's not cheap though.
What's it going for?
I got 500 grams for, I think it was 65 Canadian. I bought this from my friends at Voxel Factory. They're the Canadian distributor for ColorFab, so you don't pay the crazy import fees. They sell regular PLA like this. I got a couple different colors, and this is a kilogram spool for, I think it was $35 or something like that. It was pretty reasonable, and then shipping was pretty good too. It was only a couple days from Montreal. And
I'm going to have to figure out how to do my own brokerage sooner or later here, because those fees are going to kill you.
Yeah, I know. I sometimes round down when I'm quoting people on prices, and I'm like, I should really include the cost of shipping and taxes and import fees and exchange rates and all that kind of stuff. So how you doing, Shashi?
I'm doing pretty good, other than a persistent cough here. I was thinking about what you just said about ColorFab. They do offer a pretty big price break if you order by the entire pallet. So, and especially in the metals, the price break is pretty significant. So it'd be a good thing if we got a bunch of people together, see if we can't get an entire pallet in.
It's probably not enough time, but that'd be a good thing for you guys to sell off the back of your table at Maker Faire.
That's not a bad idea at all.
Yeah. Because that's one thing that I like going to Maker Faire for, is to buy stuff, nerdy stuff that you can't just walk into a store and buy, like Raspberry Pis and stuff like that. I mean, you can go to certain places, but generally Maker Fairs tend to have a good price on that kind of stuff. So
yeah, I actually have a big stack of 3mm filament, just like that, just for that purpose. It's surprising the number of people who have 3mm printers down here.
Yeah, well, I guess all the Ultimakers and Lulzbot still use 3mm, don't they?
Absolutely. Although I learned something interesting that on the Lulzbot, the TAS5, if you have the 0.5mm nozzle, you can run 3 or 1.75 interchangeably on that without any changes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. Oh, going back to the copper fill, Bartosz, I printed that stuff on the Ditto Pro, and all I changed was the temperature. I dropped it a little bit. Basically, I followed the ColorFab's instructions for the MakerBot.
Yeah.
Is about 210 degrees Celsius and about 50 millimeters a second. That's the only thing I changed from my standard profile. And I also increased the infill. But they're meant to be printed on just about any printer. I don't know if I can't see why you couldn't print with them on like the M3D, for example. It seems to really like blue tape, and the metal stuff tends to come out really nicely flat with no warping, and just sticks like glue to the blue tape really well. So it's actually almost the ideal filament to print with in that sense. Like I printed a few little really flat things. I mean, these are fairly small objects, but they turned out just like perfect. Like I'd say even better than how they come out in plastic.
Absolutely. Well, it looks like that filament looks really good, and I've been considering it for for some applications with like 3D printed jewelry. My girlfriend makes jewelry, and so we were thinking of using some of those filaments and trying them out, seeing how they work.
Yeah. The only downside to the metals that, as far as I can tell, is that they, like for jewelry, you can't solder them. There's just not enough there to. Oh no,
it's just for assembly, and then it just for that sort of metallic effect, right?
Yeah.
Because as you said, it keeps it light. So that was something that's really interesting to know.
So have either of you guys done any smoothing with the metal alloy filaments, like with acetone or ethyl acetate or anything?
No.
I've done not with no chemical smoothing with FDM. I mean, I'm pretty recent to the desktop 3D printing. I come from a more industrial background, and so they would for things like that, they would have their own solutions, different chemicals, all of course acetone based, and vapor chambers and things like that. But I haven't used any of the homebrew products. I figured they'd be.
One thing I did, I'm working with Douglas Copeland on this art project, and I scanned him and I made like a low poly version of him. And this is something I did just experimenting by wandering around Home Depot, or actually Walmart. And they have this, I think it's Tremclad makes this stuff called Hammertone. And I don't know if you can see it, and I'll bring it down to Portland, Shashi, so you can see it in person. But it actually is a metallic spray paint that's meant for plastics. And when you spray it, what happens is it actually leaves a little bit of a bubble behind, like little pock marks over the place, and that pop. And then it actually looks like hammered metal when it dries. And so I just did a couple of coats of that, and it turned out, like, in person, this looks amazing. Like, if you didn't know what it was, other than the shine on it, it looks like metal, and it's pretty cool.
That's fantastic.
And it's like a $6 can of paint.
Yeah, so, I think going for different types of applications, right? Different things you would rather put on instead of chemically treating the print itself. Different spackles and paints, as you described. I think that's a little bit more of an approachable process in regards to post-processing FDMs,
especially at home.
Well, yeah, you fumes from a spray can, you still don't want to inhale that kind of stuff, but you can go out on the balcony, right? Whereas current like vapor chambers and all that kind of stuff, that's a little bit trickier. And when you're dealing with things like acetone, then you have some pretty serious hazards that you're going to have to address, I think.
Yeah,
especially around young people and all that, and in classroom settings.
Yes. Yeah.
One of the things that I had read is people were experimenting with deep fryers. So they're really well sealed up, and you can put some of the vapor in there. They're all metal inside. I'm sorry, not some of the vapor, but you can put some of the acetone at the bottom, heat it up just ever so slightly, and then put the print in the basket.
Right, and then the basket doesn't actually touch the liquid, or if it does, it's a quick dip. I don't. I haven't printed with ABS for a long time until I got the Up Mini a little while ago as part of another project I'm working on, and I forgot how nice it is to print with. The negatives aside of ABS versus PLA, the ABS has a very unique feel, and this is something that Bartosz and I were talking about online before.
So smooth. It's like it's buttery.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and it really depends on the filament. And the stuff I had was literally yellow, and it looked like butter. Like it, it's very smooth. And some of the samples they sent me too were printed. It seemed higher than the high resolution stuff. Like I don't know, and there was no post processing done on the parts. And I forgot how well those things can really bond the layers. So definitely, I mean, that's the nice thing about 3D printing. There's lots of options depending on what you're trying to do. So. But it just really depends on what the application is as to what you're gonna use it for and how much time you want to spend on it after the fact. I say 99% of the stuff I have I don't touch after I take it off the printer. I
noticed we've got comments coming through, and this is my first time using this feature. So we talked about Drew asked if it was conductive. We already answered that, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So that's how it works. We see the things come in, and then we can address it. Okay.
Yeah, we can answer it, or in this case, we have an open seat. I was hoping to have another person join us tonight, but he wasn't sure if he can make it or not. So if someone wants to jump into the seat, you can just take it if you have questions or stuff like that. The other thing is on the left side of the screen, the tell little bird button will basically tweet out on your account, linking people here. And I've added 3D printing as a hashtag so we can get a few more viewers. But this is really just a first attempt at getting some of the people that I know that are really into 3D printing and are experts in our fields, and we're just going to shoot the shit and see what happens. And this is like a real interesting trial and a pretty cool platform. This Blab platform is free and it archives everything. So we'll put this up on a YouTube somewhere at some point. And so that's
I just tweeted an obnoxious, just a nice obnoxious tweet there.
There you go.
Ordering people. Hopefully they'll come in. So what's some? I saw you playing with a neat little 3D print there, John. Is that a print in place?
This is a print in place. This is one of the coolest things I've found recently. This is called the Scissor Snake. It's on Thingiverse, and they come in different sizes depending on the bed. And it's a print in place grabber thing, and it's pretty cool.
It reminds me vaguely, when you right there, sort of the SETI eel from Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
Yeah, it's got that sort of the little pincers that are going to get you. Here, I'll show you mine.
I've got to show you this.
Okay, you got one, Shashi. Here, what's your show and tell?
So my actually I don't have it here with me, but I had some interns at work that were making a wearable pillbox, if you will, and this is what it turned out like. Does it look familiar? It's like that little bracelet that Khan was wearing in The Wrath of Khan.
Oh yeah.
So it is. I think I think there can be a point can be made for the cultural influence of Star Trek as being far greater. Sorry, John, I know you're a Star Wars fan, but the cultural impact of Star Trek is like really all the things we're talking about today.
Yes,
absolutely.
So here's my trusty chestnut from. It was also print in place from when I was my time at Shapeways. Right now,
that's the good old Strand Beast.
It's a great one. Whenever I show it to people, of course they're naturally very very enchanted by it. But the interesting part is, so when I brought it over on the plane, I had to put it in my carry-on, and it got crushed by someone else's bag. And it's been, it's broken right here. It's a pretty big break in the thing, but it still works. Yeah, that's the nice sort of thing is that it's gone through so much but the print itself is still mostly functional. So and I can still demo it, right, and still durable enough.
I have another really fun print in place object. Have you seen this, Shashi? So the really cool thing about this guy is he prints in place, and his tongue
It's enormous.
is enormous. I think it's actually meant to be mounted on the wall. It actually has like a little wall hanger on it, and then basically you can just pull the. And I use some transitional filament, so I don't know if you can tell in this, but it does actually change from yellow to orange at the bottom.
Yeah. Was that dyed nylon or something like that, or was it?
No. I forget what it's exactly called, but it's basically there's a few places that sell it, and basically whenever they switch colors, they have like a spool that has multiple colors on it, and so then
it's like
basically
the Dum-Dums. It's the mystery flavor.
Yeah. Swamp water is what we used to call pop that was mixed, all different kinds like that, and so. But the problem I've had is that the transitional filament really requires like a lot of material to be laid down. The transitions are so subtle that it's really hard to see something obvious. But I found another company just yesterday that makes some interesting filament, which I'll talk about in a second. But they also sell transitional stuff. Actually, why don't the other neat thing about this platform, guys, is we can actually post links.
Oh, great.
And so let me just see if I can find that.
Hey, John, while you're doing that, Drew32 had a question about, or he said he's interested in applications for food. So I'm going to show some of those things that I have.
Okay.
Here. So if you see here, this is off of one of 3D Systems sugar printers.
SchefJet. Is it a SchefJet?
It is.
Oh, nice.
It smells like green apples. And this is my fourth one that I've had because I have kids, and sometimes these things just disappear. Like so. The other thing that, just to bring it a little bit closer to home, have you guys heard of the Form Futura filament? So this stuff is supposedly the first, FDA certified for food safe applications. And I'm working with a local restaurant called Urban Farmer, and they're a steakhouse, very progressive, doing some great stuff. We've been printing glasses. This is actually maybe 4 or 5 shells towards the bottom here and 2 shells towards the top. When you make this in single shell, it's absolutely clear, like a lens.
Wow. You should tell everybody what else you did with Urban Farmer a little while ago. It's pretty cool.
Yes. So Urban Farmer is really big into local and sustainability. And what we built with them was a crowd printed cow, literally half a cow. It was made out of white PLA, 99 pieces. We had about 14 printers doing that, about 200 hours of design time, 700 hours of print. And when it came together, it's 4 feet tall, 7 feet wide. And
you should post a link in the chat if you have one handy. So one of the things I found yesterday, which is really kind of cool in this whole filament stuff, is somebody is now making filament from coffee grounds, and
I read that.
Yeah, this is it's called wound up. It's coffee filled filament. It's basically like the copper fill stuff, except for they're using coffee grinds instead of copper, and so it's still PLA. But it smells like a nice roasted coffee in your house when you're printing with it, and it's actually pretty cheap. So I'm on the fence about ordering some. I don't really need it, but I like playing with all these weird stuff. So so it's a really interesting use of something that we typically throw away.
Is that what manufacturer was that from?
3DOMUSA.com.
Oh. There's another manufacturer. I just got some in. Let me go grab that. I'll show you guys.
Okay.
You're clicking to give the props.
Yes. There you go. Thanks,
Boom.
Drew. Yeah. So. What else I've got a whole bunch of different tricks here. One thing I have that's really kind of cool, and this is probably done on a printer that you're familiar with, Bartosz, is this is a titanium spinal implant.
No kidding. Very nice. Is that an EOS?
Yes, it was done on an EOS. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's
I'm tempted to just grab it, you know. And
Yeah.
this is the thing about the platform is you feel like you can kind of go and grab it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Was that is it part of a sample pack or?
It was a sample that someone gave to me. I was keynoting a conference in Florida earlier this year, and the guy from Gartner had a bunch of samples, and he had extras, so he gave me one. So
He gave me his number to send me a couple of those. That would make an amazing keychain.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
so like, yes, what's that keychain? That's a unique keychain? Oh yeah, it's a 3D printed.
It's funny. It kind of looks like a little car outline.
Yeah,
but
straight out of Star Trek, my friend.
Yes, yes.
So, John, just to continue on the coffee.
Yes.
Here's a coffee made by our friends at
Protopasta. I saw that they're now available on Adafruit as well. I just got that notification in my email this afternoon. That's exciting for them.
Absolutely.
So we have friends in Portland. They had a Kickstarter last year, and they made the carbon fiber filament. It's basically PLA with carbon fiber added to it. Cool.
Now, is it sort of in the same manner that the copper fill would be, where it's like a powdered?
Yeah, it's just the granules. But Shashi can maybe elaborate more on it. But
yeah, because this has been something that I've been wondering about. Because for example, like I've got these drone propellers, right? So these are some broken ones, and they're made with a carbon. It's a carbon nylon.
Right.
Mix, right? So I'm just wondering if it's sort of the same idea as that filament.
Probably. It's going to be cleaved carbon fiber, and you can get a sense for it here. You see how rough it is?
Okay.
You can feel it's a matte finish on this stuff. I really need to get some better lighting, I think. But this stuff is also more water resistant than I find the normal PLA. I don't even store this with desiccant or anything, and it just melts like butter every single time. It doesn't give you the same stiffness as normal carbon fiber strands would, but it does make the print a lot stiffer than you normally would, and it tends to be a little bit lighter weight, volume for volume, than what you would expect with PLA.
I'm giving you the props for some desiccant thing, as I've got a stack filament which I have not been storing properly. Shame on me. Luckily the M3D sent me a bunch of desiccant too. So, what do you guys recommend for storage? Because like for regards to desktop and stuff, I'm new, right? So
what I have is a huge wall unit full of filament, and most of it is just out in the open. Ken, yes, I am in Canada. I'm in Vancouver, actually, as is Bartosz. So I have some, I guess, more environmentally sensitive stuff. My garage is pretty much the same temperature year round. It's mostly underground, and there's no windows or anything like that. So it's what I did is I think it was on Amazon. If you just look for desiccant, they actually sell these little boxes full of little pebbles, and they change color when they're fully absorbed.
Oh, nice.
And actually, I've seen them at Dollarama and Dollar Tree as well.
Okay, the dollar store will have them.
Yeah, so you just
the dollar store, hey.
Exactly. So you basically just buy like a big Rubbermaid bin and put it in there. And I have a clear one, and I just have the desiccant things on the outside, so I can tell when they're. But nothing's changed. The environment in my garage is very stable. So.
Guys, I really wish I knew this was going to be a show and tell, because I have a ton of stuff that's just sitting all over.
Well, we'll do this every week, and we can have a show and tell segment.
Fantastic. So just to your point earlier, here's one kind of desiccant that you can get. You can get this at the dollar store here in the U.S.
That's the one. That's the exact one I was talking about at Dollar Tree, Bartosz.
Yeah, this one's amazing. It'll collect water in the beads, and you can see when they've turned blue. That's when you know that you've got a lot of liquid. And there's some liquid sloshing around in here. You can barely see it.
I'll keep an eye out for that.
Yeah,
that one's nice, but it's very cheap. But I have to replace it pretty frequently, so I actually like this one better. This one's a gun safe
Right. I've seen that.
dryer. Yeah, and it's filled. You can see in there. It's filled with those little beads in
Yep.
there.
Yep.
Little pink ones.
A
And what you do is you plug it
dryer?
in.
Is that for like
Yeah.
for where people store their guns safely?
Yeah. Just
Yes,
so that
yes.
it doesn't get moist.
I didn't know there was a thing like that. Okay.
Yeah. In a gun
Well,
safe.
it's also used for regular safes
Oh, okay,
too.
okay. So just a drying unit. Crazy.
I mean, I'm guessing that one, because it's got the antlers on it, is probably like from Cabela's or something like that.
This one's from Fred Meyer or Kroger if you're in that part of the country.
Yeah.
Check this out. It plugs in, and then it has an internal heater that once the desiccant gets too wet,
Yeah.
it just uses heat to expel the moisture, and then
The
you can reuse it.
the dollar store ones, apparently you can just microwave for a couple seconds, and it'll work the same way as well.
Oh man, I've been throwing them out like a sucker.
You guys, would you guys care to? I know I'd like to see an expert opinion here. So I was. Are you guys familiar with the Kit Bash guys? They do the crazy skulls, the boneheads.
Well, that's what
You got
this is.
one?
This is a kit
Oh.
bash.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I printed this one. This isn't off the micro. This is off the Robo that I've been testing, and I just check out how it gave this weird sort of I don't know what it really is.
What was the orientation? I'm guessing
It's straight up just like the file set, right? Because it's
Yeah.
supposed to print sans support. But and so certain areas printed perfectly, right? So you can see there's still a bit of ridging, right? So this is printed at medium quality, and then it just started shitting the bed, right? And just like oozing out the filament. But get this.
I had this.
Here's so I think this is to do with the fact that I'm extruding either too fast or there's some backlash or something like that. But this is the Micro 3D. It just it's light years nicer.
Yeah.
Right? Like just such a nice detail. So I was wondering, what do you think? Why would this happen?
I've got two guesses, and maybe Shashi will concur or have a different one. One is that the slicer can't handle the smaller, thinner bits, and because it's printing, it's not slowing down enough to let those layers cool properly.
Yeah, that's what it was looking like. It looked like it was just plowing right through it.
Yeah, so that might just be an artifact of the Robo's slicing engine that it's using, whereas the Micro 3D has actually impressed me with what it does with the slicing. But the other thing it could also be, and this is a long shot, is just maybe filament binding, and it's just not getting enough. It just could be coincidental to it being towards the end there, because you also have it lower on, but the lower part of that beak skull thing had some inclusions and stuff like that for the eye sockets and stuff like that. So it might just be the fact that it's just not spending enough time per layer cooling. So what I would, in that case, what I would do is I would just take a desktop like house fan and blow it right at the printer while it's printing. That's an easier solution.
I would the fan on the Robo. It's kind of testy. Because it likes to either go all or nothing, and you have to watch it, because if you turn it down, it'll suddenly either switch off or go to full blast. And when it goes to full blast, I would encounter issues with the lifting and different filament issues started occurring, because I think it was just cooling it down too fast and you get a little bit of curl all of a sudden. But I mean, I guess it's just a matter of tweaking the Robo and really spending the time with it.
Yeah.
What's the
Have
material?
you tried a bench? I'm sorry. Go
What's
ahead.
the material you're using there?
I was just using the this blue PLA.
Is it clear?
Big old. Let's see. This is what I was using.
Yeah, that is like generic blue filament. That has been the single cause of all of my extruder jams as well.
Just regular old blue filament, hey?
Well, there's
Just
something
the generic stuff.
In the generic stuff.
It's got a grainy feel to it.
Yeah,
It's got this grainy feel.
There's something in the additive that really makes it I don't know, funky, and I found that it would carbonize in my extruders. I was overcooking it all the time. So just be careful of that blue. I mean, it's a nice blue, and it's
Yeah, it looks really pretty.
Yeah.
But it prints like crap.
Yeah, and that's
Also
unfortunately. Go ahead, Shashi.
I'm sorry, I have a little delay on my headset. I also find that the translucent colors tend to compound errors once you've laid down one bad layer. You know, it cascades up a bad layer much more than the opaque filament.
Yeah, especially with PLA. Yeah,
yeah, especially with PLA. My Velman K8200 has that same problem that you were exhibiting. Like as soon as it has a bad layer, the print is done. There's no recovering from it.
No.
And a large part of that was the Z-axis wobble that I was seeing in mine, and the banding was much more pronounced in the K8200. So when I put a spring-loaded Z binding or Z coupler, it took away most of that, and also a lot of those problems went away out of that printer.
Yeah. What slicer does the Robo use?
It's the let me just check here.
Is it their own or is it one of the?
It's the matter.
Yeah.
Matter control.
And,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a pretty good one. I was surprised.
It works really well. It has lots of features. I just haven't yet really explored it. They've got these sliders there. I think that can slow things down in real time, which is what I want to give it a whirl.
The other thing about that particular program is it's like a generic front end, if you will, to other back ends. And you can actually use Slicer or Cura as a back end. And it basically takes your settings and the profile that would have been set up with the Robo and sort of reconfigures them for each of the slicing engines that are underneath the hood. So whatever it's set to now, say it's Slicer, try slicing with Cura or whatever other options you have.
Yeah, it was a used machine, so the previous user has everything dialed in for. He was actually printing an ABS,
right?
So he's got things dialed in or had things dialed in his particular way. Yeah, which is that's par for the course, right?
That's the joy of 3D printing is getting the printer, and if you get a good manufacturer that has a proper custom profile and you use their filament, you should have no problem. But once you start going off the reservation a little bit, you're in for a configuration fun. And it literally, like when I built my first rep wrap, it took me months to get it dialed in to the point where I was happy, and I could also trust the printer to like print while I'm sleeping, kind of thing. Now, just with all the experience I've had, it takes me a while to get something dialed in, but once it's dialed in, it's like it's nailed in.
Rock solid.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to be considering sometime soon finding a new slicer for the micro. They have the Repetier. Yep. Right. So that's what theirs is based on. Their little their sort of front end, so to speak. Because there's some features that I'd like to see on it, like multiple models on the platform.
Right.
And instead of shelling everything all into one. Right, so
I would just like to be able to pan and tilt the bed around.
that too. That too.
I mean, you get what you pay for, right? So, but it's good to know that Repetier is like sort of their foundation.
It seems to be the back end. So I'm going to see if it runs. I'll download it and I'll see if it actually runs.
Well, you're going to need to either create a custom profile or hopefully someone on the forums maybe has already created one.
I think there's been a number of forum people.
I haven't touched it for a little while, but actually I really hated the Mac version of the M3D software because it was basically an emulator. Have you guys? Well, Shashi,
I've used it on the Mac as well.
Yeah, so they basically wrapped it in something called Wine Bottler, which basically it's a Windows emulator for the Mac. So you can take an executable and it'll run in basically a wine emulation mode. So it was really laggy and it didn't connect to my to my Finder interface, my file system. It would just be slow as molasses, just trying to navigate and trying to find STL files in my downloads folder, for example. And then
Wow.
I installed it on Windows, and it's like, okay, this is native, and it works like you'd expect it to work. So, but
I ran it on the Mac, and it wasn't great.
Yeah.
But it was okay. Then I got this Windows machine, and now, it runs fine. Although on occasion it crashes, and I'm not sure. I post photos. I post pictures on here.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Well, can I just drag it into the?
You might have to copy and paste, but
okay.
Try. I know people were able to post animated GIFs the other night in Blab. So.
Okay, because I have some like a screen cap of what it should look like, but what it sometimes doesn't look like. Okay, where is it?
I actually just bought a Windows laptop, well, a 2-in-1 tablet laptop-y thing from Asus when I was in Edmonton, and specifically for using with 3D printers that don't have a dedicated interface for that. I might still return it. We lost him, but
my laptop is about to run out of power, so I'm gonna have to go grab my
sure.
My
here
excuse me.
Here he comes. There we go.
I'm gonna try that again.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah. Anyways, I'll post anyway. The point of my complaint was that it'll have the indicator of at what level your print is, and sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
So there's little details like that, little bugs that pop up, I think, in the software, which may bother people. But as long as you are well versed, I think, with that particular print, it sorts itself out. I mean, it becomes a non-issue after you're used to it.
Yeah.
Right, so.
Well, and also too, the people that are probably buying the M3D are probably relatively new, so this is their first experience with this type of technology, and they're also paying a very modest entry fee compared to others in the space for a surprisingly good little printer.
It's a good amount. I mean, I think people are still gonna under $500 if they put together a really nice sort of especially for the Canadian market here, if they can put a good $500 package together, then with a bunch of spools of filament, some extra sticky tack there, and some couple of spare parts, $500, you'd have a really winning combo, right? Like a few spools and some extra supplies, and then just go. Maybe a bit better support documentation, but.
The other printer that I got, I literally ordered them within a day of each other, is my Chinese the Wanhao Duplicator i3.
How is it?
It's pretty awesome, actually. I'm going to just grab a link here in a second, and if anyone's curious, this is the same price. Well, I got it for the same price. I think it's gone up a little bit now. I think it's about $429 US for this printer, and it's got a much bigger bed. It has a heated build platform. It has an LCD screen. It runs on SD cards. It's open source. It's hugely hackable. It's all powder coated aluminum and steel, and it's a nice. The box it came in actually wasn't much bigger than the M3D, actually, because the M3D was inside a smaller box. But it's if you're willing to spend the time and futz around with configurations and stuff like that, it's a pretty neat little printer that I bought it mostly so I could just hack stuff at it and not worry about damaging my MakerBot or something else. The cost of entry was negligible as compared to some of the other machines I have. And I was completely blown away by the print quality off that came on the SD card. That was the sample. It blew me away. And the really neat thing is the way that printer was set up, it comes with a memory card, and you can actually import the profile off of the sliced file into Cura, and then you don't have to do anything. Like, it's just simple. And I was able to get really good results off of it very easily.
Wanhao makes really good machines.
Really good knockoff machines.
Lots. Well, yeah, but they're really well put together. There's tons and tons of maker spaces use them
because they're inexpensive.
They're just that's right. They're just so cheap, and they're what is it? Their i5 or they're one of their latest machines are based off the tinkering.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, they're I would if you're in the market for a relatively high performance printer, I always suggest to new users get the cheapest one you can find. That of a reasonable quality, right? And I always point them towards Wanhao just because it's people often will balk at like $2,000 or $3,000, but $1,000, $1,500, they'll.
It's funny because I've done a lot of demos, as Shashi can probably attest as well, and I'm always surprised the people that when you tell them how much a printer costs, they're like, "Oh, that's all," or "Oh, wow, that's a lot." And like when I was in Edmonton, we were using 13 Ditto Pros, which are 2,000 Canadian. They're about, I think, 1,800 US, which is actually a good deal right now. And the machine is a pretty good all-around machine as far as cost and performance and what it's capable of. And people, like, I would hear people walk by and they would sort of like, "Oh, I bet that's $10,000 for each machine." And like, people have no idea what these things cost.
No concept.
Yeah, I mean, and there's no basis for guessing even because, like, $10,000 for this kind of printer, yeah, maybe a couple of years ago, but now, I mean, just with the M3D and the Wanhao duplicator, the price of a PlayStation. You can give your kids something that they'll actually be able to use to create a career from,
That's right, exactly. And I think that's really the benefit of it. And that's a really good way of selling it. A PlayStation is a no-brainer for people to get for over Christmas, but 3D printer, they're hem and haw. Yeah. But now they're at the price point where
But even like the Up
one on every desktop.
Yes. Well, the Up Mini that I was just helping to show for London Drugs here in Western Canada, it's $895, and it's about the size of like a coffee maker, right? And some people spend a couple $100s on a coffee maker too, right? So I mean, it's getting to that appliance-y look and feel and price point.
Yep.
But again, it just depends on what you're using it for, right? The maker movement really has been the driving force behind a lot of this stuff. Where does the average person fit in? Does it make sense to spend $500 to make, the knob that you broke off your oven? No, it makes more sense to go to Home Depot and get that replacement knob for $1. But what I've found over, showing the stuff to people and getting them excited about it is like they start looking at the world very differently. And they start finding other things that they could use it for in their lives. And that's the big challenge is like, this is like a tool in the toolbox. It doesn't necessarily have a specific use. It has many uses.
Well, not yet for a very specific use.
That's the end of my rant.
There's I hear you on the rant. It reminds me, this industry reminds me of where the PC industry was.
Shashi, I can't.
In the late 70s,
you know what? I
80s.
can't hear you at all. And you know why? Because I muted you when you went to get your. There we go.
Oh, perfect. Hey, before I go any further, did you know there's a recall on the Wanhao i3?
No.
Came out today.
Really?
Yeah, it's on the wiring harness. Where the big wires go in for the heated bed and the extruder. Those things can overheat and melt the plastic. So you should check that out. It went out through the Enable group today. That's how I saw it. But
interesting.
It's all over the forums too.
Actually, I just noticed here in the link that I sent, they actually dropped the price $30.
Oh, geez, I'm gonna go buy one.
Yeah, and it comes with filament too.
What's $30?
They just dropped the price of the i3.
It's $399.
The Up Mini?
No, the i3.
I was cutting out, so that's why I asked.
Yeah, but
Um, that's a fantastic price. The one that I recommend that I'm seeing a lot of Autodesk people using is the PrinterBot Metal
Yes.
Simple. Just toss it out there. It's a $600 printer. It doesn't look. It's almost cute, if you will. And you can get it as both as a builder project like kit, or you can get it fully assembled. And what really struck me is we have an Autodesk office here, and at our meetup, every time that the Fusion 360 team comes, they have 2 or 3 of these that are super well dialed in.
That's the thing, is they're pretty bomb proof. I mean, the Protopasta people last year at Maker Faire, they had one mounted on a backpack and with a battery pack, and they were printing on their back as they walked around the Maker Faire. It was a pretty good example of how robust these machines can be.
Yeah.
Is that the one with the handle?
Yeah. Well, it's got like a little.
Yeah, it's kind of an odd shape.
Yeah.
That's definitely it's got a certain artisanal charm to it. It's got a look to it. Absolutely.
Yeah. But it's pretty solid because it's all metal construction, and it's fully assembled, and it's really well documented and well used. So there's lots of people in the community for it, and which to me is always like, especially people that are just starting out, that's the best place to start, is to don't buy that new Kickstarter thing that you thought was really cool that no one has.
That's right.
If you've never done this before, because it'll take a year. Well, I've been waiting almost 2 years now for my Peachy printer to ship.
No kidding.
Yeah. But
wow.
It sounds like they're going to be shipping in October, according to the last email I got yesterday. But I've heard that before.
Well, you gotta hurry up and wait.
Yep.
That's the perils of the crowdsourced or crowdfunded product. Can they deliver, right?
Yeah. So one thing I
have one to show you here. I'll bring that right back.
Yeah, the whole notion of getting a printer that way, anything that doesn't ship like within 2 months, I'm skeptical of, because it's the technology changes too fast, and generally it's people that
if you ordered it 2 years ago, what's it gonna, is it gonna be 2 years, like a 2-year-old model?
Well,
or are they upgrading it as things are moving along? Did they specify on what their issues were with getting it produced? Was it supply chain?
I think it's mostly the problem. Yeah, supply chain, and also working out the bugs. Some of the stuff was just literally MacGyver duct tape and bubblegum.
I am really interested to see how the problems in China, with the Chinese economy, what kind of effect they're gonna have on people being able to do Kickstarters.
Yes.
Right, because because right now, they're bringing their manufacturing down. They can't afford to keep those factories open anymore. Thanks, baby. So it's going to cost a lot more to produce there.
One thing I learned when I was in Shanghai for CES this year was China's actually starting to outsource to India, if you can believe it, and which blows my mind.
India is they're a tech powerhouse. Right. We're starting to read about a lot of hardware startups coming out of India as well. Of course, it's there's a lot more people coming out with that type of background, especially with the proliferation of cheap 3D printers and maker tools of that type, right?
It's interesting you should mention that. I have a lot of relatives in India, and there's a certain mentality that you have to be a maker. When you have to be hands-on. You have to value the things that come out of being hands-on, and that's a cultural shift for many Indian families. Usually they pride themselves in being able to have someone do something. And so what I'm seeing, even in the Enable group, which I'm part of here,
You okay?
Yeah, my light fell down. Actually, I had it hooked to hooked on a hook on my door, and yeah, it was fun. It's still shining down there. Yeah, I don't. I've had broken bulbs on carpet before, and it was never fun.
No.
But just to finish that thought out, there's a small number of maker spaces, and that shift in going from making something to from having something made for you custom to making something is really fun to see.
Right.
What you're seeing outsourced more often than not from China to India is the software or the schematics.
Right.
The actual manufacturing is still done in China.
Right.
I just wanted to comment on one thing that Bartosz said that really rang true to me is that the Kickstarters. What people don't tell these aspiring entrepreneurs in Kickstarter is that you have to be building a business and not just a product.
Yes.
And
well, the whole thing, the supply chain and everything has to come along with it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's supply chain, but also building a sustainable business. Asking for a $30,000 to make a fully functional, hardened 3D printer is basically a marketing stunt. And if you're serious about building a business, then you're going to have outside investors. You're going to have a proven model, some customers lined up, maybe a letter of intent or some statements of work to build something out. You're not just going to go in completely cold. Like even the Coolest Cooler, which is a Portland company, which made $1 dollars off of Kickstarter. That guy.
Do you know those guys?
Yeah. He sits over at Nedspace, which is a local crowd, a local co-working space. Crazy guy. I used to sit next to him, or not too far from him, over at this Starbucks over at Forest Heights, which is not too far from me. But yeah, he came. He knew exactly where his failure. He had a couple Kickstarter failures before, and when he did the third one, he came in with a very clear idea of what the product market fit was, what who would be his investors on the outside, when he would reach a break even point on his first product, and what product would be a good follow on from there as well. He had partners lined up.
So he had already he had already done it before, right? He knew what he was getting into, right? And that's we're seeing that with a lot of the drones right now, because drones are just getting crazy, right? So and some of the earlier Kickstarted drones are just being shipped now, and they're terrible. Right, it's they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. They fly away, which is, if it flies away on you, that's great. What if it cuts your eyeballs out or something? Right, a lot of these people are launching them by hand, and then that's just you're putting a blender or think of putting a blender or lawnmower up to your face, flying blenders, right? So of course 3D printers aren't, and 3D printing it doesn't have that element, right? But there's still right, you're going to get duds that come out of them. I haven't really that's sort of the thing. In the 3D printing circles that I run in, I don't very much hear about really terrible 3D printers that are constantly failing, as opposed to, I'm always hearing about drones falling out of the sky or flying halfway to who knows where. So it's interesting. And maybe it's just I'm not in the right part of the community or anything, but I'd like to hear some of those stories too.
What I've heard a lot is people will get something and it's just junk, and they'll part it out or throw it in a closet, and it'll just never be heard from again, kind of thing. Like it gets swept under the rug more than anything. But the other reality is a lot of the really bad ones just haven't even shipped, or.
So they haven't come out yet, and I'm really wondering what, because the Kickstarter, that platform is so powerful, and it's so compelling, right? As you and I were talking on Twitter yesterday, when I ordered that 3D scanner, right, and I got and so I trust your opinion, so I feel like I'm thinking, did I get suckered? Is it because I saw I knew Matter and Form, and I had, of course, I only read good things about them. I never read any hate mail. So I was like, okay, Matter and Form, they put out the one scanner, and this one, they're really trying to get me to buy it for $49. And I'm like,
I literally almost bought it.
So I thought about it, and I was like, okay, I got to do it.
I thought about it, and then I spent the time. What was it called again, Bartosz? I can't remember what
it's the bevel.
The bevel. That's it. In case Shashi hasn't seen it.
Yeah.
And basically, I think it ended last night or something like that, or like really soon if it hasn't already. But it just looked like a 3D scanner for taking 3D selfies, not for 3D printing purposes. Like it didn't look like it's good enough, or it didn't have enough polish, at least with the prototypes that they showed, considering these are people that have already put out a scanner, which frankly, I haven't heard any good things about. And when I've seen it, I've been extremely underwhelmed in person. I've seen them a couple times at trade shows, and it's just like, I have zero interest in buying that product because the quality is just so bad compared to stuff you can do for free with 123D Catch, or like the structure scanner, which I use all the time. There you go.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I'm like, well, because I mean, you can put a great video together, but is it going to work?
Well,
I mean, I put $50 into it.
Well, and that was my logic behind the Peachy printer as well. It's $100 roll of the dice kind of thing, and I was actually not sure about the structure scanner. The structure scanner was a Kickstarter.
Did you get that from Kickstarter?
I did, yeah. And honestly, I practically turned it into a career with that scanner. So,
well, yeah. I mean, that thing's been you're everywhere with that thing, and I'm, Is it only available for iPhone?
Yes, they're.
Yeah, or for the iOS, right?
Well, the most support's available for it. There's an open SDK for it, but no one's released anything on Android as far as I know. So
yeah, and that's I know. And I was thinking about, well, if I get that, then I'm going to need to get an iPad for it. So it was I just wasn't in the right place.
Yeah, I mean,
since I switched
about that. A few weeks ago, I was showing off my my structure sensor, and it sees 3D in the Intel Cafe. My day job is with Intel, and a few guys from the RealSense team come up, and they're like, "What are you doing? Is that a RealSense camera?" And so I show them around and show them as a structure sensor. And at IDF, there's an announcement that the It Sees 3D app is now on RealSense. You seen that?
No, I didn't. It Sees 3D is a pretty good app. I just don't like that the scaling is off on it, so you have to scale everything up. I get why they did it, but it's just frustrating to me versus having a one-to-one scan if you use a laptop. I love the convenience of It Sees. So Bartosz, we're talking about there's a third-party app that's available for the scanner as well. It was the first one to do full color, and literally you just point it at somebody and you walk around them and you're done. And it's a full color scan that is pretty amazing. The two issues that I have with the app is there's something off. Everything is in meters instead of millimeters, so everything's scaled super small. Like it's not the right scale, so you have to scale everything up. So I think you're losing a little bit of definition that way. But I think they did that so that you could actually email it off the iPad. Otherwise, the scan would be too big for your email.
Yeah, it'd be insanely large.
Yeah, and you'd fill up your limited space on your iPad or whatever. But the other thing that that really annoys me more than the scaling issue is, and maybe it's me. I don't know, Shashi. You can tell me if you've had this experience. The bottom of the scan. So when you scan something, this is me that was scanned with a structure scanner. It's dead flat on the bottom, and it sits on the print bed perfectly level. It sees 3D. No matter what I try to do, it's always like off. So then I have to spend half an hour.
It's always
yeah. It's always like, and it's not a consistent angle. So it's not like I could just programmatically say, okay, adjust 14 degrees to this direction on X, Y, or whatever. It's always off. So either I have to reslice it, so I chop off the bottom on a level thing, or I have to sit there and try to fiddle with it with half-degree increments, and it's annoying to me. So I actually don't use it.
That's a deal breaker right there. The fiddling.
No.
The fiddling.
There's a workflow that you can do with this. Just import it into Cura and have it lay flat in Cura.
Right.
And it'll lay it flat every single time on that, and it'll figure out that angle for you without slicing it. Another thing that you can do is in NetFab, it'll do the same thing.
Yes.
Have it repair the file.
Yeah.
And it'll set it flat again.
But what I found is when I take that scan into NetFab, NetFab actually degrades it even more when it's repairing.
It degrades the STL?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, I find it looks more pixelated to me. I'm just using NetFab Basic, not the Pro version, but so it was just again, you're trading conveniences for either having to do some post-processing later on when you want to print it, or you have a laptop with you to actually tether. But even then, the tethering, and I've been in a lot of different environments with the scanner, when you're tethering, the Wi-Fi is so critical. And so I just create a hotspot where my laptop creates a hotspot only for the iPad, but I still find connectivity issues. But you can't do the kinds of scans that I like to do if you were tethered. You'd need like a 100-foot USB cord to do it properly. And it just wouldn't work the same.
Have you tried one of those wireless USB dongles for that?
No, I'm just using on my Mac. I just create it's a local hotspot, and I only let the iPad talk to it. So it should be like completely fine. But like we were in the West Edmonton Mall, and it's a Wi-Fi war zone. Just tons of overlapping networks. So it just kills the reception, which was frustrating.
Yeah, I have a wireless USB dongle from another lifetime, and I was thinking of trying it out with that, and maybe it would do better than tethering of Wi-Fi, because it's also 2.4 gigahertz, but it's on a band that Wi-Fi doesn't use.
But I would think that with my MacBook running at at a 5 gigahertz connection with only one other player on the network, which is the iPad, it should be fine. And sometimes it is. In some certain locations, it's like beautiful, super high frame rate, everything. But then other times it slows down to like 1 frame a second kind of thing, and I always lose tracking. So,
well, that's definitely
no. It's something I should really follow up with Phil at Occipital about to see if he has any solutions for that. But anyways, that's a first world problem, I guess. My 3D scanner doesn't work as well as I'd like it to.
Gents, it's time for me to go. I'm gonna retire for the evening.
Yes, I wanted to keep
really
this
awesome.
at an hour, and let's try to get into do this next week. Maybe
around the same time.
Yeah, and we'll try to make this a regular thing. And we'll tweet it all out. So if anyone's watching, we got a few watchers right now.
If you want, I'd definitely be up for brainstorming a couple of different, like maybe some topics or something that we can flow through and create a sort of like
an agenda.
An agenda. Like show and tell, and X leads to X leads to X.
Yep.
What did we?
So for people who are watching on there, what would you suggest? Please, if you have some things that you'd like us to talk about, and you're watching this, please put them in the side channel
tweet
here.
at us. But for right now, we'll keep trying to do this every week, and we'll see what This is our first time. We had 24 viewers total, so that's pretty good.
That's great
for the first time, and
I'm more than willing to talk about 3D printed sex toys. Absolutely.
You are an expert at that topic.
Kenneth popped on.
Yeah. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Sounds good.
Welcome to Blab.
Yeah, it's really quieted you guys down now that I'm on. I just wanted to ask, you had mentioned about a Raspberry Pi at one time, John, and I was wondering if you know about Solar Robotics here in Calgary.
I do
sell
indeed.
a lot of stuff like that.
I do, yes.
Okay.
I'm a very impulse buyer, though. I like to see weird stuff. The off-the-shelf type stuff like a Raspberry Pi is fine, but some of the neat kits that like some of the makers make, that's the kind of stuff I love finding at maker fairs. And the Portland and Vancouver and even the Seattle ones. I've even been to the Calgary one a couple years ago. I brought a carload of 3D printers to the first Calgary Maker Fair, actually. And I like. The problem with all these electronic stores is more often than not, it's like a big store with a warehouse, or it's a small store with a warehouse in the back. And I don't necessarily know what I'm looking for until I see it. I like to browse.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I've ordered lots of stuff from Solar Robotics, and those guys are great, and they really support the community too. So
yeah, I've got quite a few Arduino products from them. So I'm into that type of thing. My bias says I'm into home automation and I do basically for oil, gas, and petrochemical industry. I do automation programming and things like that. Engineering design type of thing. So.
Great.
Yeah, I'm out.
Very cool.
Dinner time for me. Kenneth, it was nice to meet you. Shashi, also nice to meet you as well. And John, of course, we'll definitely see each other in the near future. So
great.
I'm out, and
all right.
have a great evening. This was really, really awesome. I'm going to be back next week.
Okay, great. All right.
Awesome.
Thanks everybody. Thanks for joining us, Ken.
Okay.
We'll try to do some more stuff too. The only thing I wish that this platform allowed us to do is like to show videos and stuff. So all we can do right now, as far as I can tell, is just post links to stuff like that. But because there's some stuff that I have videos of various things, like Drew's asking about the 3D systems and printing food and stuff like that. I've got videos of all that stuff from CES and other places. So it'd be really cool to be able to show that to people in this little window. Apparently that kind of stuff is coming to the Blab platform. This Blab system is brand new. It's only been around for a little while. So
about 3 months.
Yeah. And apparently this technology has been floating around for a couple of years. It was developed by a guy who sold it to AOL for like $850 million. They sat on it for a couple of years, did nothing with it. And then he bought it back from them for $1 million. And so he's basically got deep pockets to let it sort of germinate and grow into something really cool. And I'm impressed so far. Just this functionality alone is pretty neat. This is kind of like what a Hangout should have been all along.
Exactly.
So, all right. With that, I'm going to shut her down, and we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for chatting and joining. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.